This is Lisa Morgan, President of the Georgia Association of Educators, and welcome to our Wednesday afternoon Facebook Live with GAE. And this evening, we are going to spend some time talking more about GAE and what we are doing during these school reopenings. And so tonight, I thought we were going to talk with Sharon Doe, our Vice President, and Carly Shaw, our Secretary Treasurer, because they've both had issues come up in their school that may happen at your school, and they're very different issues, and we have very different advice based on these issues. So I'm going to start with Sharon because Sharon has a one-part problem. Sharon teaches in Richmond County, and Sharon, can you tell us about what you were asked to sign before you went back to work?
Well, we were asked to sign a return to work acknowledgement form. In that, I sent it to GAE Legal Services to be analyzed, and they came to the conclusion that it was perfectly fine to sign because we were not asked to waive any of our rights. It was just a form acknowledging that we were coming back to work.
Okay, so it was just, we're coming back to work, and was it asking you to do something when you came back to work?
Yes, it was asking us to take every safety precaution necessary to keep from being infected with COVID.
Okay, so keep your social distance, wash your hands, don't come to work if you have a temperature.
Yes, that kind of thing.
All those things that we all know, yes, we're going to do. So that's okay for us to sign because it's just saying, I'm going to do what I know I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Carly, you had a completely different situation. Tell us about what your district asked you to do.
We did have to sign an acknowledgement in order to receive our 2 masks, which is just like what Sharon signed, saying that we would be willing to follow through with the procedures that have been put in place to keep us safe. Our district allowed teachers to bring their children to work if they needed to. Waiver that we were asked to sign if you brought your child to work was quite different. Most members understood they were accepting the responsibility for their child entering the school building, and they understood the risks. But at the bottom, it asked them to sign away some of their rights as an employee. And that's where we contacted legal, and legal was able to procure a lawyer, wrote a letter to the board, as well as provided an updated waiver in which he struck through some of the verbiage that was used and provided that to my members today so that they could re-sign a waiver and submit that with the letter from the lawyer to their administrator in place of the original waiver. So we had to deal with that on a different level because of the rights that they were asking our members to sign.
Okay, so it was okay to sign that you knew you were taking responsibility for your children, but they were also asking you to give up your rights as an employee.
Yes.
In order to be able to bring your children.
Yes.
So
and that's where the problem lied. That's why we had an issue.
Okay, so, and this is something that if Carly and her members had not read that carefully, then we wouldn't have known we had the issue. So our number one piece of advice for everyone going back in those buildings, and it's eventually going to be happening to all of us, is to read everything before you sign it. And then if you think there's a problem with signing it, call GAE if you are a member, and we hope you're already a member. If you're not, join GAE.org and you can become a member. So that's one of the things that GAE does, that it's happens multiple times a week, but a lot of people don't hear about those things. But that's one way that we are here for you. It's not an issue that you're going to think, oh, I need an attorney, or, oh, I'm going to go out and hire an attorney. That's something you're going to say, hey, GAE, is this right? Should I sign it? What do I need to do? So that kind of goes along with, we've got our questions that we want to answer, some of the questions that people have been asking a lot. And also, if you have questions and you're watching us tonight, put them in the comments, put them down there. We will answer them as we go through. So Sharon, I'm going to let you on this next one, because we have some of our members. I know my school system did a survey back in the summer of staff. Did we feel comfortable coming back? Did we not? Did your school system do that as well?
Our school system did that as well. They also surveyed parents.
Carly, did you have a survey in your system?
Yes, they surveyed teachers and parents.
So our systems did that, but every system didn't. So some of our members want to know if GAE can require the systems to survey employees. We're all shaking our head, no. And the only way we can require our school systems to do something in the state of Georgia is if we get legislation passed or if the state school board requires it. So that's why we encourage all of our members to know who your legislator is, know who your state senator is, and write them. Now, there's one other person that can require the school systems to do something, and that's something that's on all of our minds right now, and that's the governor and the masks. So I know all of us have been watching as all the systems in this state make all their decisions, and what's the number one issue that every system is dealing with? Masks. Mm-hmm. So our systems, the three of us, are all going back virtually. We aren't facing that walking into the building Monday morning with students, but we know a lot of our members are, because a lot of the systems delayed until Monday, August 17th.
Well,
So
Richmond County has not determined that yet.
Okay.
We have a board meeting August 18th, and they'll give us updates then.
So we know Gwinnett County, for those of you, largest system in this country, Gwinnett County has said they are requiring masks. Yes, that was news that we learned this week. So some of the systems are requiring masks. We know it's a big controversy in some of the systems that aren't requiring masks. We also know we've got Etowah High School and now Woodstock High School in Cherokee County are both closed until August 31st. Yeah, Carly, you were in your building today when the announcement was made about Woodstock High School. Woodstock High School has over 300 students and staff in the one high school who are quarantined. They have 15 or so, I think it was 15 students who have already tested positive, and they're awaiting test results on an equal number. And that's what we said was going to happen if we went back face to face, without social distancing, without masks, without changes in class changes. So we all saw the pictures of the high school in Paulding County with all the students in the hallway, just like a normal class change that we're all used to. So those two schools in Cherokee County are closed. So that leads kind of to the next question that we had someone ask about the mask situation. And if the system decides to require masks, can that be enforced? Well, here's the thing. And this is how some of the systems are doing this. And you've seen it, I've seen it. You remember in high school, when I was in high school, it wasn't the tops, it was the shorts, and you had to stand, and your shorts had to be longer than your fingertips. Okay, so, and I know some schools now have requirements even for the colors of the uniforms, so they can require them. So the schools that are saying they will require them, and Gwinnett County has said they are requiring them, have said they are going to enforce it. So we will see.
Well, as a parent, when I think about the schools reopening, I think of it in terms of, will I have a chance to prepare if I decide to send my child back face to face, if someone should be exposed and be exposed to my child, or if someone should test positive and be exposed to my child. I chose not to send my child back because the way I look at it is, if they're already online, then that's time for me to prepare. But if I send my child back face to face and they come in contact with someone and they become exposed, then when they send that letter home, there is no chance for me to prepare for the next day, because my child can't return to school that next day. So I think about it like that, in those terms. And I'd rather have my child return to school totally online rather than to risk sending them back and then not be prepared. And then I'd be putting his life in danger as well.
And you know, Sharon, that's a great point. One of our superintendents actually sent out a letter in North Georgia that said to the parents, you need to have plan B, because at any time we may have to send the letter that your child was exposed and your child has to quarantine for 10 days. You may have to get the letter that your child's class is closed or that the school is closed. South Paulding High School closed, or North Paulding High School closed originally over the weekend. They said Monday and Tuesday to clean the building because there were 9 cases in the school. They remained closed today. And as of when we started tonight, they haven't told the parents yet if the students can come to school tomorrow. So
and if I'm exposed as a teacher and I have to quarantine for 14 days, who's to say that when I return after those 14 days, I don't become exposed again and have to quarantine for another 14 days? And that cycle starts all over again. And that's why I believe that going back to school totally online is the best solution.
I agree.
Yes.
This under control, the safest solution is to be at school online, not face to face. And we're seeing it over and over. The schools that are returning face to face, taking that risk, it's not turning out well for them.
And what's the thing about that, Sharon, you were talking about, if you go and you have to quarantine, and then you have to quarantine, and then you have to quarantine. So the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, gives us 80 hours of leave that we can use when we have to quarantine. So that's for the first quarantine. The second time I have to quarantine, the third time I have to quarantine, the fourth time, hopefully we don't get to that. Hopefully they've figured it out by then and we're all working virtually. But those next times, we at GAE do not believe you should have to use your sick leave if you are quarantining because you have been exposed at school and your principal or your supervisor is saying you have to quarantine. We believe the system should put those employees on administrative leave.
With pay.
With pay, yes, with
Yes.
pay. Now, if we all go out and have dinner tonight and we don't wear our masks and we're in a group of, 50 people at the restaurant and having some drinks and we get exposed. Okay, yeah, and I have to quarantine. Yeah, that's my fault. I went and created the exposure. But if it happens in your school and you have to quarantine again, we say it should be administrative leave. And so what we want our members to do is contact us. When you have to quarantine the first time, go ahead and contact GAE and your UniServe director so they know. Because how likely is it that if you have to go on the quarantine and you come back, it's not going to be very long before you're quarantining again.
Exactly.
And one of our viewers said the teachers in Cherokee have been teaching remotely. Unfortunately, many of our systems are not giving anyone that opportunity to continue to work remotely. They're just saying you have to quarantine. And the expectation is they're going to have to be using their sick leave. And we do not want that to happen for our members. So, and I'm going to
Some of our members are very concerned about being in the buildings, because I know for myself, my classroom has no windows. So I'm not able to open a window and bring in fresh air so that I don't have recycled air. And several teachers have contacted me with concerns about being in the buildings being cleaned appropriately every single night, not being able to open windows, even though we're wearing masks and even though teachers are wiping down highly trafficked areas, it's still not enough if we're having recycled air, if we have a large group of people in the building, there are still issues. And what I encouraged my members to do is come and speak at the board meeting. There's no retribution for you standing in front of the board and sharing your concerns. We've done it multiple times and we will continue to speak up for our members. But I also want you to know that I will support you and we will support you if you want to come and speak to the board about your concerns. That's something that we encourage our members to do. We don't want them to always see the same people up in front. We want them to see more people. So the more people they see, the more they understand this is a widespread concern. So I want to mention that we would love to support anyone that wants to come and speak at the board about the concerns that we're being contacted about, because they're valid concerns.
Yes, the windows at my school didn't open. We had windows, but they did not open. So
at my school don't open in my classroom.
And Carly, you raised a subject that hasn't been talked about a lot, but that the scientists are telling us that we need to begin to think about. The ventilation and the fact that that air's just sitting there or it's being recycled.
Right.
And I don't know about y'all, but I wonder how often they change the filters. I know at home, we know we have to change the filters in our HVAC units.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recall seeing that happening in the buildings.
I've never seen it, but I would like to think that they do change the filters, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, so that's something maybe we need to begin to ask. And one of our viewers said, if I'm a virtual teacher who teaches in the building, and my child who attends at a different school has to be quarantined, am I still be able to teach? Would I be able to remotely? So that would be a decision that you would have to work with your supervisor if your district is requiring you to teach remotely from the building. And that's one of those things that we are asking the system to allow people to work remotely when they can work remotely. But it's a system by system decision. So if you are in that situation, call GAE and speak with your UniServe director, because they will be the one that can help you navigate through that situation. And Carly, I'm going to ask you this question because I hear this all the time when I talk to members about going to the school board and speaking up. Since you spoke to the school board the first time, how many times have you been called on the carpet because you went to the school board and spoke?
Never.
Sharon?
Absolutely never.
No.
No. Everyone in Georgia seems to be afraid to stand up and speak up. And you see tonight, we've all got our GAE backgrounds. And one reason, because when you go in and you speak and you say, I'm speaking on behalf of GAE or the Fulton County Association of Educators, the Richmond County Association of Educators, the Organization of DeKalb Educators, that puts your speech in the lane of association activities. So as long as you're telling them the truth, and we know you're going to be telling them the truth about your concerns, you are most likely never going to have a problem with someone coming back and saying about something you said. Because as long as you're telling them the truth and it's your valid concerns, and GAE's got your back. So that's one of those things that GAE has had our members back. And we have filed lawsuits and won those lawsuits when members have spoken out in their capacity with the association and something has happened. We've done that with school boards in North Georgia, in South Georgia, in Metro. So we want our members to know that you can speak up and address the concerns and say this is an issue, and we will have your back. And most likely you're probably not going to need that for that retaliation think, oh, I can't say anything, I'm going to lose my job. That's not going to happen. So we have, let's see. We have more questions. And somebody said, does that depend on the county? So yes, it does depend on the county. But most of our counties, it's not going to be an issue. So the another question that has been asked of us, and we want to answer it publicly, why hasn't GAE sued like the association in Florida did, not to go back into the buildings? Well, nobody has said every school in Georgia has to be face-to-face. So this is one time that our governor has not made a proclamation. Each local district is making those decisions. So we have districts in the metro area, Atlanta Public Schools, Clayton Public Schools, DeKalb Public Schools are completely virtual and the employees are working from home. So there's no statewide mandate. So there's no way that we can have a statewide case. That's why we're working on things district by district, local by local. So Fulton County, they're working on things in Fulton County. Richmond County, they're working on things in Richmond County. I know I'm going to name the counties that we have been working with, that they've been working with their local school boards about these issues. Walton County, Newton County, Gwinnett County, Cherokee County, Valdosta City, Floyd County, Rome City, all across the state, our members are working with their local boards to get the plans to where they need to be. And more and more and more of our school systems are saying they are going to be opening virtually if they haven't already opened, or many of our school systems in Middle Georgia have delayed even opening until September. So that's why we can't do a statewide lawsuit, because we don't have a statewide problem. We've got a local, I shouldn't have said that. We have a statewide problem. And that statewide problem is that coronavirus cases keep going up every single day. But it's not a statewide problem that our students and teachers are being asked to go back in the buildings. That's what we don't have a statewide problem.
And in Richmond County, our superintendent's office has been very accommodating. I called on Monday, and they called me back today. And so they've been very accommodating and very attentive to when our members have questions, that they answer the questions.
And that's another thing to find out, because a lot of times everything isn't in the public eye of what's happening. So we need to ask those questions. Okay, I know we found out that some school systems, we've been asking the mask question over and over and over, and then we actually, some people got to their school and they were passed out masks. And they said, we have the masks for the students. So you need to find out what the issues are going to be. But then there's some of those issues that we just know what they're going to be, and they still continue to be issues. And then we're on that roller coaster of, are we in or are we out, or are we in or are we out? So
and I encourage our members in Richmond County, particularly those who are parents and who have their children enrolled in the public school system here, contact your board member. Let them know what your concerns are as a parent sending your child back.
So another question that someone asked, and we have given this advice, but we're going to say it again, especially for those of you who are going back into the system, into a building. We recommend that you should be tested before you go back into the system, before you go back into the building, because then you have documentation that you were negative when you walked in the door. And if none of your routine has changed, then that can show, yes, I was exposed at school. So Carly, you're actually in the building. Have you all had the experience of, with just the adults being in the building, people testing positive?
They're very tight-lipped about anybody testing positive. I did have a member call. They were concerned because they were not feeling well. They were asked those questions as you walk in the door, you know, are you not feeling well? Are you having trouble breathing? Have you run fever? They weren't running a fever, but because of the other symptoms they were having, their immediate supervisor suggested that they go on home, go to the doctor. There is a COVID email that you can report if you were sent home, if you're having a COVID test because the doctor suggested to have one, and that you need to quarantine until you get that information back. The person on the COVID-19 email suggested that the employee was fine to go back to work. So in the same county, from two different cluster nurses, they got two different pieces of information. So they followed what their immediate supervisor told them, which was to stay home until they got their COVID results. So they're now quarantined on COVID. But it was a little bit of confusion. And that's a concern that some people are having with the adults only being in the building. I know they can't tell us who has it or how many, They just send you a letter if you've been in close contact with someone who is exposed or was exposed or did get a positive result.
And that's one of the concerns our members really have, because none of the districts, other than a few, we know Cherokee is, are reporting even the numbers and the names of the schools. And that is that's a concern for our members. That's a concern for parents, that we need, and we need everybody to ask your school systems. Yes, do it properly. But we need that information to be posted and posted publicly so we can see. I'll tell you the story that I was told by someone this week who teaches in a school system, that the teachers are back in the building. And she said they were at work on Monday. They had a big meeting. Everybody was in the room. Then on Tuesday, a grade level was missing, and all their meetings became Zoom meetings. So you were in your own classroom having the meeting on Zoom. But the whole grade level's missing, and nobody knows where that grade level is. Well, let's do a little bit of deductive reasoning here. That grade level was exposed. And so everybody on that grade level is now at home quarantining. And there's no more meetings with everybody in one room having a meeting. Now, let's think about that for a minute and think about the fact that, didn't we hear that concern before everybody even went back in the buildings? I know I did.
Did you say that?
Didn't we
say that?
Didn't we say we can't be all meeting in one room, even with masks? That if we're going to be in the building, everybody needs to go to their room with their own space and do the meeting on Zoom. So we need some of our education officials to not only listen to us, but think about what they're asking people to do. Because now there's a whole grade level out. And that's a whole grade level that what's going to happen when they need to start teaching students. Yes. So, and one of our listeners said, but if they had a school-wide meeting, everyone was exposed. Well, that's what's going on with exposure. Unless you are within 6 feet of the person for 15 minutes, it's not considered exposure. So you can be sitting 7 feet away from the person for 45 minutes and know you're not exposed. And we did have a board member in one county, and I'm not going to name the county because you're going to gasp when you hear this, suggest that the solution to the children having to quarantine was that after 14 minutes, they should get up and change seats. Yes. So we're going to play musical chairs in our high school classrooms. Every 14 minutes, you have to get up and sit beside somebody else so you won't be exposed.
And now you can't contact trace.
And now you can't contact trace, and now you won't have children being quarantined because they weren't beside somebody for 15 minutes.
But actually, you're increasing the exposure because they're sitting where someone else just got up. And it probably hadn't been cleaned.
No, and that's the magical thinking that some of our leaders seem to be doing now. That it just by magic, because 15 minutes is the key. Well, we all know that 15 minutes is what they said is a good indicator of the exposure, but I don't think there's been any scientific evidence that says you can, if you're sitting beside the person for 13 minutes, you aren't exposed and can't transmit the virus. We all know that it's not some magic. That's like the magic that we heard that young kids don't get coronavirus and they don't give it to other people. Well, that magic wasn't magic. That was simply because everybody had kept the young kids at home because we weren't having school and we weren't taking them places. And now we're having school and we're taking them places. And all of a sudden, what's happening?
Kindergarten classes are being put on home. They're being and they're on quarantine.
We are quarantining younger children. So
that wasn't magic. That was misinformation.
Yes. So one of our bus drivers has commented that their bus drivers are back as of this Monday doing the meal runs. Yay, we love you for that. We're so thankful for our nutrition workers and our bus drivers who are keeping our students fed. You all are truly heroes in this. But they are also concerned about their safety. And that is an issue because you all are being, the bus drivers that are delivering the food, you are being exposed to large numbers of people. So that's one of the things that, and I hope that our bus driver will let us know if they are providing the safety equipment and the personal protection equipment for our bus drivers that they need. So that is another thing. So Carly, I know you have, do you have any questions people are asking in your comments?
I have a watch party going, and
yes,
one person just commented that they were glad to be a GAE member because GAE is contacting boards of education and listening to their members, and that they had some friends that were in a different organization and they're not getting the same support. So they were just saying that it was good to be a GAE member.
Yes, it is. And we will always tell you, I'll say it again, join GAE.org. Join us, because the thing is, the more of us who are members of GAE speaking up about this, speaking to our school board members, speaking to our administrators, the more of us that are singing that same song on that same verse together, the louder we will be and the more they will be heard. So one of our members asked, is there a state quarantine policy or are those protocols local only? And actually, most of the districts are following the protocols that are in the Department of Education reopening guidance. And that guidance has the 15 minutes and within 6 feet in that guidance for when you must be quarantined. It also has the guidance about when you can return if you've been quarantined or when you've been exposed. If you have a fever, if you have a positive test, all of those are in the State Department guidance. And I will put a link on the GAE President's page when we are done, so everyone can get that link and download that guidance for yourself. It talks about all the issues that you can think about, and it has very specific guidelines that they are using for the quarantine measures and how they are quarantining. It also has that line that masks are strongly suggested in the hallways and during transitions. And that's, a lot of our members have been saying, our county's plan says masks are strongly suggested in the hallways and transitions, but what about my classroom? Because that's where they're going to be most of the time. And it doesn't say masks there. If you look at the state guidance, you'll know why, because the state guidance did not say that. So one of our members commented, it's time for a GAE member drive. Yes, we agree. It's time for a GAE member drive. And so we'll kind of, let's talk about that a little bit, because every GAE member can talk to your colleagues and sign them up to become a GAE member. You have all you need already. you have your voice, you have your story, and you have the website, joingae.org. So, Sharon, when you're talking to your colleagues about GAE, what do you talk about?
Well, what I like to talk about to try to get people to join GAE is those 5 reasons to be a member of GAE. How they empower us as educators to stand up for our rights, how they advocate for us, and that's the most important thing that catches people's attention, because they know they're not alone in whatever situation they're dealing with. And so that's what resonates with most of them.
Carly, what do you talk about?
I usually talk about my why. Why did I become a member? And I started out as a member of a different organization, and I had a concern, and I reached out to that organization, and I was told that they understood my concern, but in order for them to get involved, I needed to have 25 teachers in my building sign a petition against that administrator, and then they would come in and investigate. And I knew that was not going to happen. No matter how many people were concerned in my building, nobody's going to put their name on a list that's going to then be turned over to an administrator in the county that they work for. That's not happening. And because of that, I started searching out other avenues for myself to be protected and for me to have membership in a program that was going to support me when I had a concern. And I found GAE. And I found a member that they did help out and that did have a concern, and they were able to come in. Their UniServe director, we're the only group that has a UniServe director, and they came in and they helped that teacher, and that teacher was able to resolve her situation. And I said, I want to be a member of GAE. And I signed up then and have never looked back. It mattered to me to have that support. When you have a concern, you need to know somebody understands and somebody's in your corner. And as our slogan is, we've got your back. And we mean that. We're here for you. And that matters to me, and it mattered to me then, and it still matters to me today.
So I'm going to tell y'all my story about why I joined, and then I'll tell you what I talked to other people about. I was actually a student member of GAE. But then when I became an active member, even before I knew that the Organization of DeKalb Educators was the affiliate of GAE, I knew I was going to join. I was coming to teach in DeKalb, and I had a friend who cut a newspaper article out and gave it to me and said, "You're teaching in DeKalb. This is a group you want to join." And the newspaper article was about a program that ODE has and continues to this day. Every year, they give books to the students in DeKalb County. And this particular article was about they were giving books to students in a Title I school. So my friend knew I am a reader. Literacy is my passion with students. So she gave that to me. But then I was a student member. Oh, wait, we're the affiliate of GAE. And so then I became involved. That's something that sets us apart, though, because we have a local, all 3 of us have a different local. We all have a state organization that we are members of, and we all have a national organization that we are members of. And we, as educators, need all 3 levels. We need our local to work on these issues with our school board. The reopening is truly a local issue because it's local by local by local. We need a state association because, as I was telling somebody earlier today, the salary increases we get start at the state legislature. Our benefits start at the state legislature. Teacher Keys, our evaluation system starts where? At the state legislature. Mm-hmm. So we need a strong state organization to deal with that. And then we need a national organization. I started teaching right when No Child Left Behind started. And anyone above the age of 18 knows what happened with No Child Left Behind, and that was federal legislation. So for that reason, we need a strong national organization to advocate for us and our students at the national level. No other organization in the state of Georgia provides members with a state, local, and national organization. And the other thing I like to talk about, if you are an educator in Georgia, we are here to welcome you to our profession, and it is our profession. GAE is the only association where you, the member, choose the leadership. We elect our local officers, we elect our state officers, we elect our national officers. You choose who's standing out in front speaking on your behalf, on our behalf, because we've all got the same skin in the game as every other member. When the raises are up at the Capitol, when they're trying to change something, teacher keys at the Capitol, it impacts me just as much as any other member. So it is all about us and we when you are a member of GAE. So we're asking everybody, if you're already a member, and some of our members have been commenting tonight already that they've been talking to their colleagues and they've been signing up. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to talk to your colleagues, ask them to join us, because the more voices we have, the further we can go to make public education what it should be in Georgia and to make things for our students. We've been talking a lot tonight about the issues of our members and their concerns about their health and their safety. But bottom line, if we don't have a teacher in the classroom, the students can't learn. One of the ladies that was a leader in GAE when I first started, she said this all the time, Jackie Henry, my teaching conditions are my students' learning conditions. So when we're talking about the things that teachers need, it's because students need them also. So one, I'm going to tell y'all, we're going to get this part out of the way. Been telling everybody every week how many children in Georgia have tested positive. And if you've been watching us, I started this July 1st. And July 1st, we had 5,026 children birthed to age 17 who had tested positive. Our number today is 18,680. And that number is going to continue to increase because we insist on having students in the buildings. And one thing, I saw somebody today talking about the fact that many of our parents don't have that plan B, don't have that option B during the day. And I think we need to begin to discuss that, because that's not an education problem. That's not an education problem that we don't have affordable childcare readily available for all of our children when it is needed. It's not an education problem that we have children who get their main meals from school. That's a society problem, and that's something we have to fix in our society at large. I said to a reporter earlier this week, educators have found a way to fix everything that we've been thrown at before. When our children don't have crayons, what do?
Give them
We go to
crayons.
Target, we buy them. Okay. When we don't have materials for the science labs in our class,
ourselves.
we go buy it ourselves. When the active shooters come in our buildings, what do? We
Got in front of that bullet.
we hide our
those children.
We hide our children behind us and put ourselves in front of the bullet. But this virus is invisible. We can't see it, and we can't protect our children in that way. So we have to have a solution that protects our children with all of us working together. And I've said it earlier this week, and I'm probably preaching to the choir with our members because this has been concerns they've all had, but maybe not. We all need to be wearing our masks. We all need to be socially distancing. We all need to be washing our hands, and we all need to be staying home if we're sick or we've been exposed. The only way we are going to be able to have students return safely to our schools in the buildings is if this virus is under control in our state. And it is not right now. And I know you all have been watching the news and seeing that with me. So I'm going to ask, okay, there's all our downtime. Now we're going to talk about something good again. So Carly, you've been preparing to teach your students. And Sharon, I know you've been preparing to teach your students. So I know every year as educators, there's always something you're planning to do different, some great new idea you have. So Carly, what are you going to do different this year? What's going to be great with your students this year?
I'm going to start off the year with a Flipgrid, and I'm super excited about it. That's a new piece of technology that I tried out last year, and not very many teachers were using it just yet. And this year there are more and more. And I'm going to have my students introduce themselves to me through Flipgrid, which is a video-based application that the students can use to tell me a little about themselves. And it gives me a way to get to know my students, even though they're not in the classroom with me. So I will do an introduction video that's an example, and I'll model for them what I'm looking for them to do for me. And then they will video record themselves telling me who they are, a little bit about themselves, and something they want to learn this year. I am so excited. I've even got a couple of other teachers that are science teachers in my grade level that are going to be doing the same thing. And we are super excited to see our students do the Flipgrid for the first time. I'm excited.
I knew that's who we are as educators. Ask you a question about your classroom and you're going to get excited, and we're going to end on a happy note. Sharon, I know you're doing something new and exciting with your high school science students.
In Richmond County, we're using a platform called Canvas. And Canvas is a really great platform. And what I'm doing for my students is I'm looking for real world situations to apply to the physics. And it may be difficult to teach physics online because I've never done it, but I'm willing to give it a try, and I'm going to remain positive about it. And I'm just going to be there for my students whenever they need me. And I think by bringing in the real world component to it, it's going to help them learn more, because they'll actually be able to see the physics concepts at work in the real world around them.
And now I have something exciting. So today's Wednesday. Monday night, NEA did a webinar, and it's a 3-part series, and they're going to put them up virtual. They're going to put the recordings up so you can see them. But it's a 3-part series they're doing to assist us in our practice as we're going back in the classrooms and as we're not going back in the classrooms with the digital learning. And Sharon, I'm so excited that you're using Canvas in your system, because I was excited about Canvas and I'm not even going to get to use it. But the other teachers from around the country and all this professional development, it's not somebody, it's a teacher that has used it in their classroom, and they made me want to use Canvas, and it's not something I'm doing. They had lots of other great ideas, but that was the one thing that really stuck with me, that they were talking about Canvas and all the great things you could do with it. So I had the link up Monday night for the first session. I'll definitely put the second session and the third session the next 2 Monday nights. And we invite you, if you didn't see it, when they put the video up, I'll make sure that we post it for you all as well. Sharon, we have a question. Is Richmond 100% virtual?
That hasn't been determined yet.
Okay.
That hasn't been determined yet. We will get an update August 18th at the board meeting.
So we're going to close now that we've got ourselves a little bit more upbeat. We're a little bit happier. And that always happens with educators when we talk about our students. It does, when we start thinking about our students. And we are excited to meet our students once again. And we are excited that it is a new year. We always start that way. But we have to ensure that we are keeping our students safe and healthy when they come to us. We all know Maslow, that lovely man we learned about when we were in teacher prep, but it's true. If our students' basic physical needs are not met, they really can't learn. And so many times when we're talking about Maslow as educators, we're talking about that our kids are hungry, or they're sleepy, they're tired, they're upset emotionally because of something happened before they got to school. And we deal with those issues with our children every single day and do our best to help. But this time, it's also, they have to be healthy. If they're not healthy, they can't learn. So we are continuing to advocate that the safest instructional model right now for us in Georgia is virtually, because the cases go up every day. It's depressing to look every day at the number of cases we have in Georgia. We now have over 250,000 cases just in Georgia. Yeah. So everybody, wear your mask, socially distance, wash your hands, stay home if you feel sick, take care of yourself and our students, and hopefully our leaders, our superintendents, and our school boards will begin to recognize that, yes, the safest instructional model is virtual, and we can get through this. And then on the other side, if our students have those gaps we need to fill in, that's what we do. That's what we do every day, because we are educators. So thank you all for joining us. We'll be here again next week. And by that time, sure, things will have changed again. But remember, GAE has your back. We're there for you. Call on us. And if you're not a member yet, join GAE.org. Thank you all.